The NFL added a new rule in 2018. It's now a foul for a player to lower their head and initiate contact with his helmet against an opponent. So whether you're on offense or defense, you can't lower your helmet and initiate contact into another player with it. And this rule has been highly, widely criticized. Everybody hates it. And I want my opinion to be very clear on this new rule. I don't like it. I don't like the new rule. It feels like it was rushed out. It's ambiguous. It can be misinterpreted. It can be interpreted a number of ways. I like clarity. And the new NFL rule, the helmet rule, lacks clarity. I want to be very, very clear. My opinion is the rule lacks clarity. It's far from perfect. But I also want it known, I understand why the new rule exists. I understand why it happened. And Richard Sherman said the rule is somewhat impossible. I agree. I agree. It's basically impossible to follow the rule as it's written now. And the Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer came out. He said, people are going to lose their jobs over this new rule. He was highly, critical of the new rule. Again, sadly, I agree. People are going to lose their jobs. The impact of this rule is going to ripple everywhere, both positive and negative. Everybody's mad at the NFL. I'm not mad at the NFL. I'm like the only person. I think I kind of get it. I've heard people call the rule change sudden, abrupt. People said they got no warning. The NFL just made a rule change out of nowhere. I believe the NFL made a defensive move. The NFL made a defensive move when they changed the helmet rule. I want you to think of the last time you responded something suddenly. Last time you made a quick, sudden change. Think about it. Was it a defensive move? Last time you swerved on the freeway. Well, you swerved on the road because there was something there. You had to avoid it. It was a defensive move. Or you're walking around public. Why do you suddenly dart around a corner and hide in a building or hide around a corner? Because you see someone you don't want to talk to. It's a defensive move. When someone does something very suddenly, very rapidly, out of nowhere, it's a defensive move. See, it's the suddenness. It's the suddenness of the NFL rule change. It's the way the NFL rule changed the rule overnight. The suddenness makes me think this was a defensive move by the NFL. That's why I understand it. I lived in LA very briefly. I lived in LA, got to drive a cool car. It wasn't my car. It was awesome. It was an amazing experience. But I saw an accident while I was driving around in Los Angeles. One guy slammed on his brakes. The guy behind him swerved out of the way to avoid rear-ending the guy in front of him. When the second guy swerved, he hit a third car. See, Richard Sherman is an unintended consequence of this new rule. He's the third car. I think the NFL swerved to avoid a collision, and they changed the rules to make the game safer, in their opinion. And when they swerved, they hit another person. They hurt Richard Sherman. They hurt Mike Zimmer. They hurt people who care about defense all over the NFL. Fans, members of the NFL, everybody. So I think the rule change was intended to help public opinion. We're going to stop helmet-to-helmet contact. We're going to change the NFL for the better. That was the intended consequence, the intention. They swerved to avoid a bad, nasty hit. But in doing so, they're really hurting a lot of people, hurting fans, hurting players, hurting coaches. The impact of this rule is going to be some positive, right? There's going to be less helmet-to-helmet hits. There's going to be some good stuff that comes out of the new helmet rule. But there's also going to be some unintended bad consequences. So I don't like the new rule. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's kind of weirdly written. It's ambiguous. What does it really mean? How can it be interpreted? I don't really like the new rule, but I understand why it exists. I understand why the NFL did this. The NFL's goal is to make the game safer. They want 30 years from now the NFL to still be a thing. They're trying to make the game safer. It's a defensive move. The NFL made a sudden defensive shift to protect themselves. Because as science evolves, as people's opinions evolve, parents stop letting their kids play football. It's a real question. I don't know if I'll let my kids play football. Probably. If they want to play, they'll play. I'm not going to force them to. But the reason why the NFL made this rule change is because they want to protect themselves from lawsuits, from public opinion. You might be mad now, but 30 years from now, this rule is going to be looked back on and gone, that was probably a good move. Less people had head injuries. Can't even talk. I think the NFL felt like they had to preserve the game or else they were going to have a significant problem down the road. It's a preventative move. It's a defensive move. Moms are going to be watching this. They're going to see less helmet-to-helmet hits. It's encouraging if you're a mom. And the fear is that eventually perception of the NFL is going to get so bad, people will stop watching. It might hurt viewership this year. I don't know if it will or will not. But the goal of the NFL was to do something positive, to help the goodwill of the NFL to make it safer. Whether they did that or not, I don't know. But I think that's the goal. That's why the NFL made this rule. They were trying to protect themselves, and they were trying to protect the league. It was a defensive move. They swerved to avoid a collision. Now, it looks like they hit someone else on the way out, right? It doesn't look like it was a perfect move. But I understand why the NFL made the rule change that they did. I get it. I don't like it, but I understand it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. This is my show, Strong Opinion Sports. My name is Zach Schaumler, and this is just my passion. I love it. If you like Strong Opinion Sports as much as I do, you can share it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is. Help me grow Strong Opinion Sports by telling your friends about the show. And if you're new to Strong Opinion Sports, you can subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can find the full entire hour-long podcast on YouTube, as well as shorter little breakouts like this one you just watched. So again, share it, subscribe to it. It's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys, and have a great day.